Once again, I'm addressing the issues of electronic weapons, COINTELPRO, mm, gang stalking, being targeted by groups, clubs, organizations. Since that's what I got to right there is groups, clubs, and organizations. All right? Oaths, fraternal orders, mm, bondage, terms of indenturement, the implication of one's will over the others in the terms of civil liberty and sovereignty, or so to say that if your ass is in a gang and it's bad news because you're in that gang, and there's a lot of different clubs and gangs, and they own you like loan sharks. And I'll see a loan shark doesn't loan somebody the money because they expect to get it back. They're buying a person. So this is about, and remember, money is funny. It's the power that they're after in each different club and how they vie, interact with one another, attack one another, and sort of do their best to gang bang with it. So what I wanted to do today was refer you guys to the last Vice on HBO that talks about the Democrats, the Nexium stuff, this guy who's taken on this group, these two guys who are going head to head about Nexium. It's pretty good, and it's all relative, because one of the things that I always like to mention is that when you refuse to surrender your sovereignty to the fraternal club, when you refuse these clubs, when you refuse these groups, they get upset, because part of the promise of getting in the group is all this power. Like, you can have whatever you want. This is the secret of success. We can give you this, and you can get that, and you can have everything, and that whole fucking bullshit. So, like, these guys are suckers. And they can't stand me because they have to confront that idea every time they look at me, that no matter what club they're in, no matter whose gang they're rolling with, no matter who's on there, they know me. If they know me, I'm like, dude, that's your team. My circle, my friends are pretty cool. They're pretty spread out, but they know about how weird the shit is that's going on. Like, they're not going to talk to you about, definitely not going to talk to you about this in school, definitely not public education. So, segue from that is targeted groups, and why groups get targeted, and why one group will target another group, and why it always goes from majority. Usually the oppression comes from the majority on the minority. You guys got to think about that for a second. Anyway, there's more for later. See, my dudes are one of a kind. And all these particular characters have self-knowledge, so they know when it is that they're being exploited, and they know when it is that they're being that there's another gang on us. All right, whether it's a bike gang, a cyclists. Oh yeah, cyclists. That's the segue too. Is the cyclists? Cyclists have been targeted. I said bikers before, but people get that wrong. I should have said cyclists, because in my state, cyclists as a group have been targeted. It was pretty hard on them. It was pretty weird. I mean, and people who ride bikes are pretty green and pretty responsible. You have to be careful on a bike. You have to watch out on a bike, because you're not wrapped in steel, man. If you make a mistake on a bike, there's no airbag or anything like that. You gotta, biking serious. And I can smell it on them. And just like I say, and then you get the one group will turn one group against another group, And while those two are fighting with each other, they'll zero in on their target. You know? So if you're really, like, I've been targeted for a long time. When people talk about it, like, different people manage it in different ways. But some people are like, well, I've been targeted from birth because of this and that. And then they're right. And he's like, well, I've been targeted for birth. That basically the whole world has turned against me in a way, even as I'm being born. And this is truth. This is the way it works. Is that once the gang decides that they want you in, they'll do, if they want you, they'll try and do anything. And if you can fight back, that's good. But when I say fight back, it means it's for you. Now for me, fighting back, I don't do. That implies it's a struggle. This is a natural form of life for me. This is a natural way I've been conducting myself in the face of these gangs for a long time. So when I see them traumatizing people, like especially people I care about, I'd like to say it's par for the course, but that kind of stuff builds up over time. And the way people have been hurt and the way things are going now, it's too bad. It's too bad. The things have deteriorated, so and people who are targeted know what I'm talking about. I'm doing roulette, but I gotta keep it New Testament. So let's go with Mark. Mark 14:22. And as they were eating, he took bread and blessed and broke it and gave it to them and said, "Take this. This is my body." He took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them. And they all drank of it. And he said to them, "This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many. Truly I say to you, I shall not drink again of the fruit of the vine until the day when I drink it in the new kingdom of God." That's that's that toast to the Last Supper. He's telling them, this is it. I'm going. I'm going. What's up? I already told you what was up. Here we go. And he's also blessing things. And when they had sung a hymn and they went out to the Mount of Olives, Jesus said to them, "You will all fall away, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered. But after I am raised up, I will go before you to Galilee." Peter said to him, Even though they all fall away, I will not." And Jesus said to him, "Truly I say to you, this very night, before the cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times." He said vehemently, "If I must die with you, I will not deny you." And they all said the same. But see, nobody's perfect. His buddies are all right. They're doing their best, all right? But you should always, I have no recourse when somebody like that says something, they want you to do something for them, if you just do it. Especially if it's Jesus Christ and says to do something to you, and says to do something for you, and says to do whatever, you just do it. You don't have to ask. You don't have to wonder. He just knows better than you do. If he knew what to do, if he told you what to do, you wouldn't have to know what to do. Because he is, smarter, so to speak, or fulfills his management requirements more heartily. Let's see. And they went to a place which was called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." And he took with him Peter and James and John, and began to be greatly distressed and troubled. He said to them, "My soul is very sorrowful, even to death. Remain here and watch." And going a little farther, he fell on the ground and prayed that if it were possible, the hour might pass for him. And he said, "Abba, Father, all things possible to thee, remove this cup from me, yet not what I will, but what thou wilt. And he came and found them sleeping, and he said to Peter, to wilt, Simon, are you asleep? Could you not watch 1 hour? Watch and pray that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. And again he went away and prayed, saying the same words. And again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy, and they did not know what to do to answer him. And he came the third time and said to them, are you still sleeping and taking your rest? It is enough. The hour is come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of the sinners. Rise, let us be going. We'll see my betrayer is at hand. Immediately while he was still speaking, Judas came, one of the 12, and with him a crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests and scribes of the elders. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, the one I shall kiss is the man. Seize him and lead him away under guard. And when he came, he went up to him and said, Master. And he kissed him. And they laid hands on him and seized him. But one of those who stood by drew his sword and struck the slave of the high priest and cut off his ear. And Jesus said to them, Stay. Have you come out as against a robber with swords and clubs to capture me? Day after day as I was in the temple teaching, and you did not seize me? But let the scriptures be fulfilled. And they all forsook him and fled. Young men followed him with nothing but a linen cloth about his body, and they seized him. But he left the linen cloth and ran away naked, and led Jesus to the high priest. And all the chief priests and the elders and the scribes were assembled. And Peter had followed him at a distance, but right in the courtyard of the high priest he was sitting with the guards and warming himself at the fire. I'm going to stop there. I went a little far with that one. It's a good story, you know? There's actually a lot of different ways to see it. Apparently the political context during that period is pretty heavy. There's a lot of fighting. So, combat. Something, you know what, one last note before I go. God bless you guys. Is it not politicians? It's not politicians. It's never going to be politicians. Politicians are for people who screw up and need help. I promise you, you don't have politicians because you're up to something good. And you only need politicians, you only need politics if things aren't, if you're fucking up. So, anyway, have a nice day.